Hello and welcome to the Cloud and Blue podcast, sponsored by NordVPN. I'm your host for this one, Dan Rolinson, joined by Matt Kendrick to discuss Chelsea 2, Spurs 0. That's what we're here to talk about, isn't it? Please, everybody.
It's kind of slipped under the radar, that, hasn't he?
Yeah, a good result for for Spurs to lose another game. Arsenal, Chelsea, if they lose this weekend against Liverpool and we beat Brighton, that is top four secured. If Villa to beat Brighton and Spurs get a draw, it's not mathematical, but it will be in a very good position for us to qualify for the Champions League. So a nice little, a positive start to the episode, because obviously we're about to talk about some pretty rubbish stuff. But yes, it has gone a little bit under the radar. That's a very good result for Villa, isn't it?
Should have just played that on the big screen instead, shouldn't they?
Yeah, it's not all fun and games. We are obviously here to talk about Aston Villa 2, Olympiacos 4, which I don't think many fans saw coming at all. I feel a little bit kind of shell-shocked by it to a certain extent. Obviously, we had the preview with Stephen Cantoro, who told us a lot about Olympiacos, and the guy on my row said, I felt pretty positive about this game before I listened to that, and it made it sound like they were Real Madrid, and I was thinking, oh, well, he's obviously going to big him up. It won't be that bad. And they're going to score 4 goals. Villa unbeaten at Villa Park in the Conference League until now at the worst possible time. But, Matt, do you feel, as I do a little bit, and I will come to terms with this more in the next couple of days, we're still in this? It's only halfway there. We can still get through.
I'm torn at the moment. I'm kind of flipping and flopping from gutted that we've blown it to this is a team that can overcome adversity and that can score goals and that can control games. And we'll get to the goals and the controversies and the dramas and stuff, I'm sure, in good time. But you just think if that penalty gets stuck away, if Dougie sticks that penalty away, and then you may go on and get an equaliser tonight, or you may, you crank up the pressure on them, don't you? And the first goal becomes super important there. I think that's still the case, but I think I need a little bit more coming to terms with it time, Dan, before I can say yes. Let's roar back into the second leg. It still feels very very raw and very fresh, and very much like a missed opportunity as we sit and talk about it now.
Yeah, I think that it being a 2-goal deficit makes it feel more so than that. If it finishes 4-3, or if you take away the drama of how the game goes and they just beat us 2-0 or 2-1, and it's the same goal deficit, you kind of go, well, that's not too bad. The fact that it's coming in dramatic circumstances as a 4-2 match makes it feel probably bigger than it is. Still only a 2-goal swing. There's no away goals rule, thank God. We've only got to go there, keep a clean sheet would be the first task, and if we can get a couple of goals, we take it to extra time. Like, it's not a monumental task, but it is, as Kaz says there in the comments, a big wake-up call. Welcome to Europe, which feels like a funny thing to say in the semi-finals of a competition, because we've had some kind of bops on the nose all through this competition. Lille, obviously, the most recent one that gave us a bit of trouble, and we came out of that thinking, well, we've probably played one of the best sides left in this tournament yet in Lille, and Olympiacos troubled us more than Lille did, as me and my dad were saying on the way back home. But Olympiacos aren't the best team in the world. They're not insurmountable. Villa can go there next week and do a job and progress through to the final. But it's now, it's an interesting dynamic, really, because I wonder how that second leg would have gone. And obviously we're never going to know now if Villa had to hold on to a lead, because it's going to be a raucous atmosphere, and it's kind of on us then to protect what we've got. We've now got to go there, play football, score goals. That is what we're good at. So, I'm still not kind of writing anything off just yet. And I think as time goes on, John said about the Conference League being a bit of a nice distraction away from the Premier League pressures and something different. It's got a new skin on it, isn't it? Everything's black and green rather than purple and whatever colour the Premier League is. It just feels a little bit different. We've got the reverse of that now. It's all on Brighton, isn't it, for a few days. We'll do the Q&A next week, and then we'll think about this return leg this time next week, next Wednesday. So a little time away from it, and I think by then I'll have come to terms with, okay, right, we can still go here and get the job done. It just feels very raw at the moment.
Yeah, I think we need a Villa win and we need a Liverpool win at the weekend. Get that boxed off, and then that's a massive objective. We've had debates before, haven't we, whether people would rather win silverware or Champions League and stuff like that. We've been greedy this season that we've been right in the mix, and we still are right in the mix for both. But I think if the stars could align, I think it's a big ask for us to guarantee Champions League this weekend. But if the stars could align and we did get that, that would see us kind of properly kind of swagger back into that second leg with almost nothing to lose mentality. Let's go for it and I know Emery doesn't quite do kind of, swashbuckling gung ho football, but that's possibly what we're going to need a little bit to try and get that first goal over there. I think I'm frustrated because I fought the urge to think typical Villa, get to the business end of the season, and thankfully Tottenham seem to have done us a favour by collapsing at a really important time. But I really have fought this urge to say typical Villa, kind of get so close and then pull the rug. And Emery's been able to convince me not to think that. And we go and produce. Probably, I think somebody will pull me up on this in the comments, or you might pull me up on it. But in terms of the two most disappointing back-to-back performances, we've had disappointing performances. We've been battered by Newcastle. We've been hammered by Spurs at home and stuff like that. But in terms of back-to-back, in terms of how flat we seemed against Chelsea last Saturday night, and then tonight where I thought we started okay, but kind of contrived to shoot ourselves in the foot several times. It's just it does feel like typical Villa. We got so close to this, and then we've given ourselves a real task next Thursday in Athens.
Yeah, again, I'll come back to a lot of these conversations for this podcast, specifically the post-match one, because the only person I've spoke to about the game in any detail thus far is my dad. So I often say, like, me and my dad were speaking about this. So if my dad ever watches these back, he'll probably be thinking, we spoke about this already, and I'm probably nicking his points. But I don't know, it felt like one of these things where we've said a lot about Villa being one of the favourites or the favourite for this competition, and I mean, not now, they won't be. Olympiacos will obviously be the favourite to progress next week on the bookies odds, but all the way through, Villa with a scalp, Villa were the biggest team in this competition, the Premier League, the big league. That's our representation. And yes, for the most part, you should back that up by being better than your opposition and winning games. Football's not played on paper, though, is it? And if the favourite won every single week, it'd be a very boring sport to be involved with. But these things can happen that have happened tonight that kind of puts the favourite thing just so out of line that it's not worth ever mentioning ever again. And maybe next year we'll be the favourite for something else, and we'll go on about it all the time. But realistically, and I'm not blaming this all on the referee, although it is a part of it, and we'll get to the specifics in a sec. Having a game that you expect to be better than your opponent, I think most of us thought we were better than Olympiacos and we would score multiple goals and keep them to less than us. That's how football works. We should be better than them. They're fourth in the Greek league. We're fourth in the Premier League. Those two things go against each other. But them turning up on the night and being better than us having a bad game and having a bad referee, means that like favourites for tournaments and all that, forget about all of it, because those things can happen that go, well, that's Villa done now, potentially. Like, unless there's a comeback next week. This night here, when they were better, we were crap, and the referee was awful. Those little things combine and go, forget your favourites and all that sort of stuff. These things can happen in knockout football and whatever competition that is. It's different to the league, isn't it? If this was one game, you still got 37 others to put it right and be consistent over a long period of time. Knockout football is just not quite a lottery, but near enough.
Well, it is different to the league, but having said that, you can lose against teams at home in the league, and then you can go and win away against those teams. So you wouldn't normally have that quick turnaround time between playing them. But it's a competitive sport, Dan, isn't it? Bonnie O'Sullivan's kind of crashed out of the Snooker World Championship in the last couple of days, and if it ran true to form all the time, it'd be a fairly boring spectacle. Hence, like, Man City go and win the Premier League title for the umpteenth time in the last 5 years or whatever. It was a boring spectacle. So, listen, we thought we were on the brink, didn't we, at Lille, when we got a couple of minutes left to try and find that equaliser. We did it. We managed to ride the adventure or the pressure of the penalty shootout, and we managed to emerge through that game to get into the semi-final. So all is not lost. And again, I don't want to jinx it, but collectively we were pretty poor today. There's some stinkers of performances by individuals as well, but collectively we didn't do enough. And I'll probably say this after the Chelsea game, that we don't normally follow a bad performance with another bad performance, but we certainly don't get stuck in ruts under Emery, or we haven't.
I expect us to beat Brighton, which some people go, "Are you deluded? Brighton are a good side. Like, that's going to be a tough game," and it will be. But because, and again, I was about to say because there's so much riding on it, I think we'll do it. But there was a lot riding on tonight, and we didn't. So, I can see the counter argument to it, but I feel like we have to have some kind of reaction, and I can't see us having 3 bad games in a row.
No, well, I hope not. I hope that the disappointment. I mean, listen, it's weird. We talk about the Chelsea match disappointment. We've still got a point out of it, and we're in a better position now than we were in the league, a week ago or whatever it was before we played that game. So I think we can let that one go now. Move on from that now. But I think in terms of tonight's game, I don't want to go through the whole team saying he wasn't good enough and he wasn't good enough and he wasn't good enough. But I probably could. There's probably 2 or 3 players who you could probably pick out who would be on criticism. But it was just completely the wrong time to throw in a dud performance. And I've not watched. I've seen some of the highlights in little bit clips that have been tweeted. I've not seen them in a package or whatever. But I've just seen Emery and McGinn, some of the post match interviews that they've given, and when Emery's fuming, because whenever Villa have let ourselves down and have a below par performance, you can feel the fume coming off him.
Was he rubbing his chin?
It was just kind of 5-word answers, and I think the interviewer asked him if he thought it was kind of bad luck, the penalty decision going against them, and the deflection, I suppose, for the 4th goal and that kind of thing. He's like, no, this isn't luck. It's nothing to do with luck. This is on us. This is completely on us. And I just wonder. I wonder what he's like the day after. I presume they don't get a day off after games anyway. They're probably come in for a warm down and that kind of thing. And they've got quite a tight turnaround time. They'll probably travel down to Brighton on Saturday morning or whatever. I just wonder what he's like the day after a performance like that. Whether he's proper sulky around there, or whether he's got the clipboard out, or whether they've been drilled into every single mistake that they made or whatever. But I can imagine that. He's not going to be a particularly, I'm not sure he's a hairdryer treatment kind of guy, but I can imagine he's going to be fairly tetchy for the next few games until the lads hopefully put it right against Brighton on Sunday.
Yeah, bizarrely, Matt, we are 7 minutes to midnight on Thursday. There's 500 people watching live just on YouTube alone. As we go through this, there's loads of comments coming through, so many so that I can't flash any up, but I'm trying to kind of take points and put it into my my points to Matt here, and I'll get some of them in a sec. Did you see Emery come onto the pitch at one stage? I think it was when we were 2 down. There's a bit of a break in play for an injury on the other side. He was going mental then.
He was properly getting stuck into Louise, wasn't he? I think then Watkins might have had a little bit of it, and Longley might have had a little bit of it as well. And, quite animated, wasn't he? And that's the frustrating thing, though, isn't it, Dan? Because we scored our goals at absolutely perfect times, just before half time, to give us that lift pretty early in the second half. And then that momentum shift, but it only lasted. When did they score the pen? About a minute later?
I've been back literally. We've been off 15 minutes. I've been back like 18 minutes. I've not seen anything at all. It felt very quick. I'd have said less than 3 minutes or something off the top of my head. It was that goal specifically, and I know it doesn't work like this, but if we go 3-2 up, I think we win the game. Not comfortably, but maybe we win 4-2. The fact that it's them that get the third, it felt like everything we do here, they've got an answer to it somehow. Like very, very frustrating. Ow, hit my hand really hard then.
I'm not seeing the penalty we conceded, but I've seen still images of Douglas Luiz looking like he's trying to kind of spike the ball in volleyball or something. But I don't know whether that tells the true story. I mean, I'm told that it was, from that image, that still image, I can see that it looked like a penalty. But have you seen the highlights of it?
No, sorry, I've not seen anything, sadly. But I saw at the time that he was the one moaning the most, so I assumed it was him. A couple of people around, I said, yeah, it looked like handball from here, which, yeah, not always the best judge, but, yeah, gives away the penalty, misses the penalty. Not a great night for Douglas Luiz.
No, the ref, though, listen, this, again, I'm not going to, in our no excuse culture that Mr. Emery has instilled, I'm not going to start saying the ref was responsible for the defeat, because Aston Villa's lacklustre performance was responsible for the defeat. Yeah. But I'm not sure I've ever heard Villa Park as one. People of all generations, school kids, grandmothers, aunties, all shouting the 6-letter I don't know how to say it. I'm not going to swear on here because I think we've still got a clean billing on YouTube and on our podcast. But all shouting it so kind of vehemently and so aggressively at one person. It just, some of the, I think the one for me was the Bailey one that I did with the naked eye in the game. That looked like a penalty. And having watched it back, there's no real attempt from the fella to play the ball. And it's a bit of a tangle, but he brings him down. And you just think, and then it became a little bit kind of bitty. They were play acting and rolling all over the place to try and frustrate the game. And yeah, it just, I don't know. I think we did the hard bit by getting back into it, but it was just one of those ones when it wasn't meant to be. John McGinn in his interview has just held his hand up and said, like, for the fourth goal, I've given the ball away. I've played an over-ambitious pass when I didn't need to. So I thought we actually manufactured the ball quite well around there in a couple of 1-2s in tight spots, and then McGinn's tried to overreach, I suppose. But deflection completely wrong foot. I'm not seeing that one back, but completely wrong foot to Olsen. And then you think, this isn't meant to be, is it? It's not meant to be. Before the game, the fellow sitting next to me said, "What would you take tonight?" And I was like joking, said, "Oh, 4-0 lead, just to be sure of it." And then when it comes to the dying stage of the game and you're pleading for it to be a 4-3 defeat, you know that it's kind of wandered off script a little bit, don't you?
I've just accidentally banned somebody in the comments, by the way, the username DAWUD. So if you wonder why I've banned you, it was an accident, and hopefully I can undo that. I was trying to ban somebody else, so apologies for that. Not my night either. So I hold my hands up. Wrong decision.
Can they appeal that?
Can they what? Sorry.
Can they appeal that a wrongful dismissal?
Don't know. Maybe they can. Not at this time of night. I don't know what I was going to say. Let's talk about Olsen a little bit. I've seen some people, again, the only things I've seen is scrolling through Twitter on the way home in the car back, or X. Some people saying Olsen did okay. He was all right, made a couple of saves, got kind of involved in playing out from the back relatively comfortably. A couple of little bits here and there where you think, oh, but got there in the end. Others saying not good enough. One of the worst goalkeepers we've ever had. Kicking's poor. Should have saved the fourth goal, the deflection. I've not seen it back, but from where I was in the stadium, it looked like a massive deflection. Should he have saved it, or is that very, very harsh?
I don't know. Are we judging him by normal human standards, or are we judging him by Emi Martinez standards?
Have you seen it back, the deflected one?
No, I haven't.
Oh,
He got a hand to it, didn't he? So he looked like he adjusted his position to try and react to it. But we've got the best goalkeeper in the world, so anything's going to be a downgrade on that. I didn't think his kicking was too bad. I thought we tried to play football the way that we normally play football, with the slow build-up. I don't know. This is a little bit of a kind of an excuse. I haven't seen it. I was there, so I should be able to form an opinion based on when I was there. But in terms of the 4 goals, I don't know. I thought the first one was a good finish. I thought the second one, he's tried to kind of narrow the angle. The third one's a penalty, which is always a lottery. The fourth one seems to have had a wicked deflection. Emi Martinez might have saved 1 or 2 of those, but that's because he's absolute elite goalkeeper. And Robin Olsen he's an international goalkeeper, but he's a Premier League number 2. So I don't think he's responsible for the defeat either. I think it's collective responsibility. I think there were lots of things that went wrong because we didn't exert the kind of control that we're capable of. There was Louise. Not only has he given the penalty away, missed the penalty, but I think he's been a little bit. I don't know. He just doesn't. I'm not one of these who suddenly thinks Douglas Luiz is the best midfielder I've seen for 20 years, and now we won 2 games without him. We can cope without him forevermore. I don't think it works like that. I think Douglas Luiz is a brilliant footballer. I think anybody who we all feel a bit emotional, a bit raw tonight, but anybody who writes him off on the basis of tonight's performance is being massively harsh, because I think he's been brilliant. And I still think people have said, well, why did he take the penalty? He was having a poor game. His passing was going astray. He wasn't quite on it. He's come back a little bit rusty from his suspension. His record from the penalty spot has been absolutely, well, it's been unblemished, hasn't it? and
100%, I think.
until now. And I actually thought, listen, you could say that Ollie Watkins might have stuck it away or whoever tonight, but you trust your penalty taker who's taken big penalties all season and put them away. I was a little bit frustrated. I'm probably being harsh now, but it might have been Diaby. There was a little bit of messing about on the edge of the box to try and get the position for the rebound, basically, that caused a longer than necessary delay for me. And it was like, so Douglas Luiz, listen, we know that he's pretty good at getting in the zone and he takes his time over things and, almost has that tunnel vision. But it just seemed to be an unnecessarily long delay. But even so, you don't expect him to do that with it there.
You have to hit the target. If you're going to miss a penalty, it's saved. You don't miss the target from there. That's any professional footballer, whatever the pressure is. And yeah, easy for me to say as a 28-year-old overweight guy sat on a podcast saying, "Oh, just hit the target." Obviously it's not as easy as that, but I would expect of professional footballers to at least make the goalkeeper save it if you're not going to score it.
Yeah. Where do you stick your penalties? We had this conversation before.
Top left, mate. I'd go for
top left.
Yeah, bit of pizzazz on it. Yeah.
Quite brave, isn't he?
Cut across the body, yeah. Right footed, top left, bang, done.
I always do a little look. I'm left footed, so a little look to the bottom right corner and then side footed just inside the left hand post.
Nice.
Much as I can.
Nice.
Never fail.
I mean, again, easy to say with hindsight, he might have done this for every other penalty that he scored. I didn't like his run up, which is an easy thing to say when they've missed, but it's a very slow, very kind of bouncy, not a fan of that. If he's done that every single other time that he scored a penalty, I'm talking absolute rubbish. But maybe just in the moment, it felt very tense. There'd been that long wait because there was pushing and shoving on the edge of the box. Referees not really got a hold of. Just book them if they keep encroaching, pushing around. Book them, let him take the penalty. That was a much longer delay than needed. The run up, everything about it just felt rubbish. That.
It was just fitting though, wasn't it? It was in keeping with the rest of the night, really, wasn't it? If you'd have,
you knew it was going to be one of them nights when you celebrate a goal and it's ruled off for offside. Probably one of the worst feelings in football in the first half. Can't remember when. And you think, we've scored.
They reckon it was a foul, don't they? I've seen a little bit of that. I can't really see the foul. There might be a little shove by Longley, I think.
You go mental, don't you? You think this is it, here we go, and then ruled out as one of the not VAR is a little bit different because you have got to celebrate and then it's a reset. When you feel it in the moment, and then the on pitch officials change their mind. It's I've just gone mental for what? What was that for? Just on the ref, the one that summed it up for me as goes down as a bad performance. And I know that I can already see people in the comments saying don't make excuses because Emery doesn't, and I get that, but we're fans and we can make excuses because he won't. Referee was awful, one of the worst refereeing performances I've seen. Gosh, you think some of the ones in the Premier League are bad. Some of the ones we've had in Europe have been ridiculous. The Ajax one, the one tonight. The scenario that summed it up for me as one of the worst, I think it was Podence had gone down on the far side from us in front of the Doug Ellis. And Villa were on a little bit of a counter, a bit of a break. And he stops it, goes back to have a word with him.
Yeah.
I don't know what that was about. I've never seen that before. If you stop in play, it's probably because you think there's a red card situation. I'm obviously not looking that way, and I've thought he stopped it. Maybe someone's thrown a headbutt or an elbow or something. They've seen it and they have to stop play because they're about to send someone off, or at least a yellow card. If it was a yellow, you could let the play carry on and then go back to it. To stop the play on a counter for Villa and go back and just give a player a talking to and then carry on is one of the most ridiculous things I've ever seen. And that's not lost us the game. But who's to say that we don't score off that counter-attack in theory? Why are you stopping it there?
Yeah, there were just a few examples of just nonsense, really. And we probably are feeling a little bit bitter, but I'm not proposing for 1 minute that the refs cost us the game.
No, I'm not, but it's bloody
added to the sense of misery, injustice, disappointment, frustration. Yeah, he wasn't great. He wasn't great. I'll tell you what was great. I thought the atmosphere was brilliant tonight. And I thought I'm one of these ones who I insist on always staying till the end of games, but I've not been able to get there early to greet the coach. But the bits that I've seen were fantastic. You've seen other clubs, other more successful clubs do tin pot gatherings and stuff like that. But when we welcome our team, we do it in style. I thought the display looked magnificent. I do think you could do with cutting eye holes in those things though, because I never really saw the team walk out because I was too.
Yeah.
I could have held my card up high, I suppose.
That was a
But
bit like, well, did you bring it back with you? Did you keep it?
I've got it in my car. Yeah, yeah.
I was going to keep it, but I left it on the floor in disappointment at how the game went. But yeah, I was kind of holding it up, but kind of like, well, I'd quite like to see what the rest of it was like. Oh, better put mine up again. I'll just have a quick look again. Yeah, I
Should have put
think
it back in front of my face when Dougie took the penalty, to be honest. But I thought it was brilliant. I thought their fans were brilliant,
Yeah.
pretty much all the way through. I thought
Not a fan of them throwing stuff into the north stand.
no,
less
there
of
were a few bottles. I don't know whether there were plastic bottles and stuff. But
Looked
yeah,
like that
there was,
from where we were.
yeah. So brilliant in terms of the atmosphere they generate. Not brilliant in terms of lobbing missiles.
Yeah, less of that.
At our fans. But no, I thought it felt like a special night. It felt like a really loud. We've been waiting for this night for absolutely bloody ages, kind of night. So why wouldn't it go wrong?
Yeah, I know. We are going to wrap it up there. I said I wanted to do 20 minutes, but we've done 27. One final thing I wanted to mention, because it's come up in the comments, but we spoke about it off air before we started, about the medical emergency during half time. I was umming and ahhing whether to put this right at the start and give it kind of prominence to begin with, or leave it till the end. And that's not because it's not important, but just where it felt right to slot it in. I don't want to go into too much detail because I don't know enough of the detail. I don't know who the person was, what's happened to them since, whether they were in hospital or whatever. A couple of fans since that I've seen on social media and in the comments said that a Villa fan, a woman, gave CPR for 10 minutes during the halftime break. So that's unbelievable. And if anything comes out of this, learn CPR. It's very, very important. You could genuinely save somebody's life. One day I learned baby CPR for obvious reasons 6 months ago, 12 months ago, and thankfully not had to use it and hopefully never will have to. But if you can take anything from the situation, go and educate yourself in CPR, because it is crucially important. Somebody may have saved somebody's life at Villa Park tonight because of that. But just to kind of a shout out, for want of a better word, to the medical staff, the medical professionals, emergency services, the stewards, the fans that were in that area of the Holt End, who kind of, simple as it sounds, got out of the way, gave space, were compliant in the instructions they were given. And anyone who's maybe seen things that potentially traumatic, again, we don't know the extent of what it was. I think BT Sport was saying they were reporting it as a cardiac arrest, which is what is to be expected, I think. Yeah, I don't really want to say too much more without going into massive detail, but just kind of a virtual round of applause to those that were involved in that for what must have been a pretty harrowing experience, and hopefully we hear good news of that support, and that they're okay, basically.
Yeah, I'm kind of high up in the Trinity at the opposite end of the ground, so you've seen it unfold, but from quite a distance. And again, my understanding of it and my information, I don't know exactly what's gone on, but it did seem to be handled in a really calm, controlled way, to be honest. As silly as it sounds, there's worse places than a football stadium with all the infrastructure that you've got in terms of medical professionals, for these things, for these things to happen. So yeah, I'll just echo what you said, and I think it was a nice touch when it was announced over the tannoy, if you like, praising the quick actions of the medical professionals and stuff, that it got a kind of round of applause, that it was an appreciative thing, that you don't know, you don't know whether it's going to be your loved one or your friend involved. So it just let's hope that, I don't know any more information, so let's hope that these are a kind of positive conclusion to what's happened. But it sounds a little bit, I don't know, a little bit trite sometimes, I suppose, but it does put things into perspective. When things like that happen, we're all really disappointed for obvious reasons about the football match, but we just wish that person kind of a speedy recovery, hopefully, and a return to health.
Yeah, one thing that really bothered me and hurt me in my specific area of the Lower Trinity. Again, I don't want to get into this too much, but people taking photographs and videos of the Holt End, I thought was really disrespectful, really disgusting. Like this kind of like watcher on society that we just kind of, oh well, something's happening, I'll take pictures of it for social media to send to friends and family. Like, why are you taking photos of that? What can you see from the Lower Trinity anyway? Like, if that happened not in a football environment and somebody collapsed on the street and there was medical professionals around them, to get your phone out and start filming videos and taking pictures. Like, I thought that was disgusting from people. If you're one of these people who are watching this and you stood around taking photos of that, unless it's for journalistic reasons, and even then I can't really get on board with that either. There's an element of privacy here. Delete them off your phone, delete them from social media. Why are we taking photos of people in distress? It's bizarre, absolutely bizarre.
Yeah, listen, it's I suppose it's kind of rubbernecking culture, really, which I'm not condoning it, but I'm just glad that it seemed to be resolved. The people immediately around it, like I say, gave that space, gave that respect. You know, the villa staff, the stewards, and the emergency services managed to spring into life quite quickly. Yeah, like I said, it does. It puts everything else into perspective.
Yeah, okay. Let's call it a day there. Matt, thanks for joining me as always. Thanks everyone for watching along live. We appreciate it immensely. For those that are catching up, again, thank you very much. Whether it's Spotify, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, whatever it is, thank you for choosing our podcast out of all of them to watch and listen to. Hopefully you've got some enjoyment out of this. For what is a pretty crap result, but like we said, we're always here to talk about the game, win, lose or draw. We'll be here on Sunday for Brighton. We'll be here next Thursday for Olympiacos as well. Only a couple more of these to do, Matt. These post-match podcasts, 4 left, I think, possibly 5 if things go our way. But yeah, always a pleasure, regardless of the situation. Really, who are we to moan about talking about Aston Villa for a living? So we'll call it there. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you on the next one. Bye bye.